Gentlemen, 190SL owners, start your engine. We are going to look in close detail at our Heritage Upholstery offering for the 190SL. We have carefully developed this interior kit over many years, constantly improving, learning new things, adding things, changing things, and perfecting as we go. A lot of R&D has gone into this interior offering. We're very proud of it. It's all handmade to order here in beautiful Palm Springs, California. And we're going to demonstrate through these videos some unique offerings that no other company in the world offers. And essentially what I mean by that is that we are, Heritage Upholstery, the only company in the world to offer a full interior kit package, mail order, anywhere in the world for a 190SL. Now, lots of our competitors do what I call the easy stuff, and that's the seats and the carpet, and they sew covers for door panels and their convertible top and so on. Everybody does that. And then what they do, they sell you 3 or 4 hides for you to scratch build and cut. The rest, develop all the other patterns and coverings for the body on the car. You have to do it yourself or hire a local upholstery shop to develop these patterns and cut these pieces. And what we've done, as with other aspects of our business, we have developed a full usable kit so that no extra material has to be purchased. We're supplying everything in our kit as a sewn piece, as a full panel, wherever applicable. And everything comes labeled in a bag telling the restorer or the home restorer what everything is within the content of the bag. And we're including everything in great detail. Another great advantage for us is the use of this very expensive Gerber cutting machine that computer cuts, and we use it for lots of functions within the 190SL. I can show you here a typical CAD file. This one is for the main carpet set for the 190. We also have what we call the supplement set, which allows for the use of carpet to replace the original rubber heel pad. So the customer has the choice on which way they want to go. If they're building a Concours show car and they want to use the rubber, that we can provide all the pieces of carpet that was originally supplied from the factory. Now we have lots of unique offerings, and the computer machine allows us to do many things that other companies don't have access to and not able to do, and that affects greatly the results that we get. So I'm just giving a general overview here on the table, and then we're going to look at everything in much closer detail. It is a little confusing, our offering. I can say this: what we have is what we call a perfectionist panel kit, and with that, it includes everything, wherever possible, as a brand new panel. For instance, this is the panel that goes in the glove box. We upgraded it to a plastic for longevity. It was originally a fiberboard, but when it's glued down, the substrate is not visible, and that keeps it looking good for much longer than the original fiberboard. But basically, whatever we can. Here's case in point. We have the windlays. They're already turned back. They have to be relief cut to be installed. We have the brand new rubbers, leather. The piping goes above the binnacle supplied. And then we offer labor services. So what we need from you, as it showed earlier in the videos, we need your steels and wood components for the door panels. We can offer, you can see the rebuilt foam pad and the way that we replace those as necessary. This is the longer, later style. So we need the door panels, your aluminum cowl, which is not an easy piece to cover. You can see that one there. Your upper door cappings. You can see these here. They're again very tricky to cover. So the small panels for protect the panels on the convertible top. And we then send back to you these piece components fully upholstered, ready to install on the car. One of the great advantages we have is the ability to skive. And skive leather basically means to thin the leather. It was done that way at the factory. It was done that way for a reason. And at the shows, I see many cars that are trimmed in full thickness leather, and you simply cannot get the results this way. So this is probably our greatest weapon, for want of a better word, with our offerings for the 190, and that is supplying all the pieces pre-cut and also pre-skived to various thicknesses as applicable, and generously oversized. You can see this large piece here is for the dash, and it's been reduced down to about slightly less than half of the thickness that the full hide thickness would be. A big rectangle there for the knee roll underneath. And of course, we're looking at a 62 here, latest style. We have all the patterns for the early car. Of course, the dash components for the early car were separate, and there's other changes, of course, door panel, pleats, and lots of details. But we have developed knowledge for both early and late cars. So we'll leave it there for the overview, and then we'll look at some of our offerings here in greater detail. Okay, we'll start by taking a look at the carpet. Of course, Mercedes originally specified German square weave carpet, and that's what we have here. We directly import the German square weave from the only manufacturer in Germany, Lothar, a personal friend of mine. Great guy, I've been dealing with him for many years. He makes a perfect reproduction of the square weave carpet. We stock it in 13 colors. With our computer machine, we can take the roll of carpet. In this particular case, the customer has charcoal. Roll it out on the bed of the machine, press the button, and the whole carpet set is cut out in about 32 seconds. It's CAD controlled and extremely precise. There was some, and there is still some stock in the US of a much cheaper reproduction square weave carpet that was made in the Czech Republic, and apparently the factory then got flooded out when they had some flooding in Prague, and it's no longer manufacturing. So this is the only reproduction square weave carpet exactly as original. Again, made in Germany near Düsseldorf. So we have the square weave, and that's what we use. You can see that there's some leather listing sewn into this big piece of the rear cowl. Very little is seen when it's in the car, but you need a large amount to be able to handle. Customer here chose to go with what we call a complete carpet set, which includes pieces to replace the rubber pads, so you end up with carpet throughout the whole car. And then that's how we deal with the binding around the shifter. That can be a customer chose the attractive maroon color here. We can do this in any color, black or any color that's either interior matches the interior or the carpet. Likewise with the heel pad for the driver's side. It's not installed yet on this, but we can do that in any color that's appropriate. Another thing that we're very proud of is getting the binding exactly as original. So we have this cloth binding from Germany. It has the herringbone pattern, as you can see there, exactly as original. And we have a special tool. You can see it marked Porsche 190 SL, and this is called a binding head attachment. and it is set on the sewing machine, and it takes the cloth binding and feeds it in here, and then the operator can install this binding exactly perfectly at the factory specified distance, which is approximately 5/8 of an inch. In fact, it's detailed quite nicely in Bruce Adams' wonderful book. If you guys are restoring, it's a must-have. It's been very useful for us to get our spec right for the cars, and we often refer to it. As you can see, it's all been marked up and highlighted, and it's all the changes and things have been very carefully detailed. It certainly is a great reference for any restorer, and highly recommended. And in that, Bruce talks about the binding and the do's and don'ts, and we're confident that we have it absolutely correct. In the early days, Bruce was actually, I had quite a few telephone conversations with him. He was very helpful to us here at Heritage, and we appreciate that. He sent me pictures here, as you can see, and we talked about some of the details, trying to get things right. And you can see we developed this huge informational, we call this the 190 SL Bible. This is the Trimmer's Bible. Lots of photographs of how we do things. A lot of this now we have video for the production people here that they can follow, so that we get everything right and consistently right. So this book is very useful. We've got lots of photographs of original pieces, the door panels coming apart, and details that we've noted, and that we're reproducing here in an early car. And so that's how our knowledge has been catalogued. Oh, that's 113. Let's get out of there. Back to 190. There's us with our sun visor manufacturing. Again, I'll cover that in a separate video. But we also, I'll show you here the computer book, what we call the Gerber Bible. So this is our Gerber cutter machine. It's an American-made machine. And I tagged a couple of things here. First, we took original samples of ashtray leather, and we have some. Anytime we get information on chassis number changes for locks and so on, it's all carefully detailed. And we figured out as original dash leather. And using a micrometer, we've measured and made each piece of leather exactly as the factory did. And here you can see the carpet set CAD file. What's next we have here? We have the flutes, the pleats, the pads that go inside the doors and the seats. And you can see early and late set here. They're all cut on our computer machine. We have experimented with lots of materials to get the padding in the seats and the door panels exactly right. But the great thing with the computer is that it cuts these pieces absolutely square. Very difficult to cut by hand. The original felt type material is no longer available, and the fact that we get results with our proprietary formula, for want of a better word, that indistinguishable from the original felts, and that's what we're trying to achieve, the exact factory look. We have files in here that for our reference, but that we hand cut a lot of the leather. There's pieces of cotton bow drill that gets sewn into the back of the pleated section. Even those are cut on the machine, and we stock those. We just pull these pieces off. There's our sun visors. This is the foams and being cut to fit the frames. We also have the fiberboard strips that are sewn into the seats themselves. Again, they're with the correct auto board. We see a strip here. and the machine cuts those pieces precisely. Different lengths. There's the one for the skirt on the cushion, 3/4 of an inch by 38, and so on. Let's see what else we got. The bow drill is used on the seats themselves as they're sewn together. Even that cotton drill is cut with the computer. And of course, the convertible top itself, it's very important. Oh, even the foam on the back of the door, on the front of the door panels, is cut this way. The door panels themselves are cut with our CAD files. You can see the machine cuts the holes precisely for the aluminum glove box. The board covers that go on the back of the front seats with the holes punched, ready for the silver grommets. Again, tack strips, and of course the convertible top. I don't have it at hand, but the convertible top. There we go. Is actually also cut on the machine. Now the great thing with this is that it also marks these line-up marks and sew line marks. We use a pencil in the machine, and it actually draws all these lines on. That way we can get our top stitch in absolutely perfect. The sew machine operator just has to follow the lines. So anyway, you can see the advantage of having that machine. We're very proud of it. So I will now leave it there and move on to some of the covers within the kit, and we'll look at those in detail. So we'll look at some of the pre-cut pieces that are provided with our Heritage offerings for the 190. As I said in an earlier video, everything is generously oversized. This is the large piece of leather that is sent for covering the dash, and just as big over there you'll see the piece that covers the knee roll, the underside knee roll. Now, you know, if you guys know your car well, I mean, at the end of the day you see an inch of that right in the middle, or maybe a little more than an inch and a half, I think. But we've supplied a very large piece that allows the installer to grab hold of something and be able to pull against this leather, and of course the excess is then trimmed off. This is how it was done at the factory. We have a skiving machine in-house, and we skive a lot of the pieces ourselves. Some of the larger pieces we subcontract out to a specialty machine, a very expensive machine that does a perfect job of reducing the thickness of the leather. You can see our reference samples here in millimeters, 0.40 millimeters, right the way up to 0.77 millimeters. And that's half, reducing the leather by half the thickness, a third, and right down to paper thin. Now paper thin is this. It's 0.4 millimeters. It literally is just like paper, very, very thin. Of course, this technology, or I shouldn't call it technology, it's old school. This is how books were bound, of course, in the old days. So it's been with us a long time. Skive leather, you split this to be an ultra thin, and it still remains very strong. It's amazing. So each piece is supplied the correct thickness to do the job within the car. This ultra thin 0.4 millimeter here is used, like I said, on the binding on the sun visors and the binding that you see on the boot cover and some other places. Oh, the ashtray, for instance. Now, this is when I go to the shows, the first thing I look at is the ashtray on a 190. I can tell how the rest of the interior is going to go from there. This was trimmed in skive leather. The factory did this for a reason. You end up with what I call the chubby Naugahyde look. You've seen that in when the cars had little value and they were done at Joe's Upholstery in the local shop. Just covered everything in Naugahyde, and you end up with that sort of chubby, overstuffed look. Nothing is crisp, no crisp lines. All the details of the car are lost. And the skive leather allows for us to to ensure that the crisp lines are put back into each piece. Here's another great example, and this is I see at the shows again. These always look absolutely terrible when they're done in full thickness leather. These cappings are hard enough to do with the Skive leather, and you can see just how perfectly the box end looks, and it stretches over that irregular shape. It'll protect the panel plates. Very thin leather for that, not quite as thin as the ashtray, but you can see how that's done, and we get perfect results. The piping above the binnacle is supplied in the right thickness, again skived over a pipe. I believe this piece is the one that goes below the glove box door. You see very little of it. It's where the hinge is, or is that? Yeah, that's right. And then this one is the one. This one also comes down at the front. Yeah, this is the one for the hinge. So this is also thinned, skived very thinly at the front. If you don't have that reduced leather at this point in the glove box, you will not be able to close the door. It's a common problem. So our kit takes care of those details. We have the windlace, 8-post B pillar, and again supplied as complete pieces. These large pieces here are for the rear stowage area, glued right to the body. There's divots in the steel, and this is pressed into. Actually, is that yes, this one, and then this is the lower piece, and then these two pieces come right up against it, and again skive, so you get this nice overlap. That's not noticeable here. That's the whole point of the skive. You don't end up with full thickness leather. Again, look carefully at the restored cars, and you'll see these problems. The cowl, which I showed earlier, is now recovered. Again, skive leather at the front and at the rear, and most importantly, the little clips here are done in skive leather, and you end up with the right look and the right fit. So that turned out very nicely, as you can see. Okay, so that's covers the offerings as far as covers that get glued. Again, this piece can be sent to us, and we can work our magic and ensure that that's looking as good as it does there. And I think I've covered pretty well everything within the cockpit of the car, and we'll now take a look at the door panels. Okay, we're looking at the 190 SL door panels from Heritage. Reproduced perfectly, exactly as original. Yeah, we're very confident we have all the details exactly as they should be. Before I get into showing the components within the door and the attention to detail, I just want to make mention of the leather itself. We use the very best leather available anywhere in the world. We directly import it from Germany. We have a lot of stock, and we have weekly top-ups. We actually ship through Heathrow, London to LAX, and our suppliers in Germany send it onwards to London for transportation to us here in Palm Springs. I have access to all the original factory colors. This leather, we feel, replicates the original Rosa quality and look and feel. And we also have custom colors available on request. So if you want to move away from factory colors, we can also help you with that. We're looking now at the door panel and the final results here. We took the original steels and the wood components and the aluminum pocket and made everything else brand new, and these are the results. Now let's start with the panel itself. Again, we computer cut this, CAD cut. We get these these holes to be exactly accurate, all the shapes. This is a later style lock. This is actually this is a reject from production. It doesn't have the punch holes and it doesn't have the pencil lines in. Those layers were not set on the machine by error. But I grabbed one just to show you what we have here. It's a 2.5 to 3 millimeter auto grade panel board that has water resistance built into the laminations. I wouldn't say it's waterproof, but it's certainly water resistant. The thickness of the board and the directional bend of the board allows us to get the right bend within the door panel. So that's how we start. We start with and of course the early panel is a different pattern, but we have I think 3 or 4 variations of the door panel. But anyway, we start with the door panel. We then take the steel components, and you can see the guys here are putting together. This is even the polyfoam we cut to shape on our machine, so it saves time. We use the factory original finisher that is still available through Mercedes, with a plastic insert, and it's carefully nailed as they were originally at the join there in the leather. And again, if it's necessary to replace the pads, we take care of that as well. And then after that component is then ready, the next step is the main panel itself. And again, let's look carefully at the pleats here. You can see a machine has penciled on these so the sewer can get it exactly right, and you can see how beautifully this is stitched, absolutely perfectly with the raised welt. It's a 2 millimeter cord, and it's cut back. The seam allowance is cut. The cord is cut out at the top to allow it to fold over for the capping. We've reproduced the steel reinforcements that are used on the edge of the door, and we supply those with our doors. You see the holes ready to go. And again, we don't use and don't recommend the use of the old fibrous materials that were used in the 60s. We replace with modern polyfoams and get great results. And then, of course, finally the finished door. And I'm sure you'd all agree it looks fantastic. We see at the shows lots of problem with doors puckering at this, where this is pressed too much, where the pleats are not straight, where they're not sewn correctly. They're not starting in the right position, ending in the right position. There's a lot of things to get wrong in this door. And again, we've detailed the back, and we've even replicated the factory tape they used on the aluminum panel on the 3 sides here. That's exactly how it was done from the factory. Even the felt pad. This is a natural jute felt pad as they used. Again, a nice small detail. We've upgraded the washers there to allow for more strength to keep that, making sure that armrest stays on and looking good. And of course the steel reinforcing allows for the curve in the panel, and we trim the panels this way so that they have the right shape. I think you would all agree that that looks great, and I'm sure the customer's going to be very happy. So we're looking at our Heritage Upholstery seats. We offer this service. We can certainly send you the seat covers and do it yourself, but most of our 190 customers will entrust us with the work on the seat frames. You send us the seat frames. We ask that you take care of the chroming of the seat frames, any repairs. the painting and the detailing of the seat pans, whether you want to keep the original, I forget the color code, Bruce has it in his book there, the taupey colored, or whether it's powder coat or whatever standard you want, those whatever standard you wish for the finish on the seat frames, that you take care of that. If it's something you want us to do, we can do that, but we prefer to stick to what we do best, and that's soft upholstery. We're not restorers, we're upholstery specialists. Here's a case in point. This piece here needs some attention. We don't get involved in this type of thing. We ask that you don't send us any of the chrome components from the seat other than the frames themselves and the seat pans. It's all we need to do our job. And you can see here the results. Again, perfectly top stitched. The pleats within here are cut on our machine, so we get absolutely dead straight pleats, and without dead straight padding, you're not able to get dead straight pleats. The formula, the way we do this, is proprietary. I don't really want to share that with the world. I can tell you we experiment. I think we ended up doing 8 variations before we finally got what we have here, and we're very happy with the results. But I can show you, this is not the way we do the 190s, but here's the padding set for the 111, 112 coupes and cabs from the 60s. You can see how many pieces are required for the seat there, and again, these are all cut with our machine. But we've got all the details right. The back here is carefully box stitched. The seat cushions themselves are handed left and right, and so on. We're very confident that we have the correct amount of pull and the look of the seat. Most original seats over the years end up losing this look. It comes out, the string snap and other factors, shrinkage and so on. And quite often at the shows we see restored cars without this. It's difficult to do, and if Joe's Upholstery did the upholstery work and has no knowledge of this, very often it's missed. These haven't been cleaned in detail, ready for shipping yet, but you can see just how beautifully they look. You see, let's look at the back in some detail. Actually, probably easier for me to flip this one. And we can see how we have that. Again, as original. And we have brand new grommets, silver grommets, the right size. Brand new panel board, of course, and the piping at the top of the seat here. And most importantly, to have this very carefully. It's a difficult job, and I feel sorry for the poor guys at Mercedes had to do this every day. But you have to hand stitch this so you don't get the gape of that panel. So that piping is hand stitched across the back here, and our guys do that to replicate the factory original look. And I think all in all, we've achieved that. I want to point out at this point, I forgot to mention earlier, they were mass-produced cars, 190s, as were most of the Mercedes in the 60s and the 50s for that matter. They were not, as some people believe, hand-built. They didn't get the upholstery shop didn't get leather and cut each individual car individually. The hides were leather punched. There were some hand cut in, but they were around set patterns. The doors were tool punched. The pieces of padding and other components in the way that we build everything were available off the shelf at the trim shop, and they assembled it together. There were some minor adjustments necessary, not adjustments in the true sense, but care taken when fitting. But generally speaking, they were a mass-produced car, inexpensively mass-produced. And with that, we believe at Heritage that we can do exactly the same. We've replicated that in every way, and we've supplied our kit complete so that it can be installed anywhere in the world. Up to our offerings, again, you're just relying on the knowledge of a local shop to get all the small details right. But with our kit, it's not necessary to buy any extra leather. Every component is supplied, unconditionally guaranteed to fit and be exactly as original. And with the value of the 190s increasing, especially in the last couple of years, they are expensive cars to restore. They are valuable cars, and we feel that our kit suits the need. There's a demand worldwide for high quality upholstery, and at Heritage we're confident that we've delivered that for the 190. Again, reshooting the seats now that they've been cleaned and inspected, leather conditioned. We'll look a little closer at them. As I showed earlier in the video, you can see how perfectly these pleats are, just exactly the right amount of tension, no puckering into the bolsters. So the cushion turned out beautifully. The backrest, as you can see, same treatment for the pleats, dead straight sewing on the raised piping. And it wasn't finished last time when I mentioned about the box stitching, but I wanted to show the back here and show some of the details a little closer with the silver grommets and so on. And here is the correct top stitch, the piping. And well, you can't really see the hand stitching. That's the whole point here, is that you don't see a gape. That piping is hand sewn to the leather seat cover and closes the gap there. It's very often missed on most of the cars that we look at the shows. So again, attention to detail and the quality of our fit and finish. And I can't remember if I showed this in the last video, but here's the stickers that go onto the each bag. Each piece comes in a separate bag, so it says windlays for B post, A post, the dash components, the ashtray cover, hardware for the convertible top, stowage bin. The 4 pieces of leather will be labeled in a separate bag, and that helps the restorer, restoration shop know exactly where everything goes. So I think all in all, pretty good overview of our 190 seats. 190 SL sun visor offering from Heritage Upholstery. Very proud of the results that we get with the sun visors for the 190s. We see them at the shows, and it's always a telltale sign to us on the quality of the interior restoration. And frankly, most cars fail that test. The real proof of that is the binding. I can always tell with the binding here. You cannot get good results with full thickness leather for the binding on sun visors for 190s. It's as simple as that. It has to be skive leather, and in this particular case, we skive the leather down to 0.40 millimeters. So just under half a millimeter, becomes paper thin, as it was from the factory. Now let's look at the factory original here, and we can see the binding, and we've taken that off, and we actually used a micrometer and measured it and replicated it exactly. So a typical example at the shows we see is this is a big, bulbous, thick leather, overstuffed. Also the profile tends to be wrong, again overstuffed incorrectly, and lots of other factors that are not right. It's the focal point of the car a lot of the times that you see it's right in your face. It is important that these look at their very best, as they were from Mercedes originally. So as you can see, we have the original. We call this the salvage side. This is the rough side, raw edge, and the other side is the finished side. And one of the points is that this has to be done in the right direction. The good side essentially faces the driver, the salvage side, the other side. So one of the other features of an original sun visor, this one's been taken apart, but you can see it better here, is this sort of square edge, this box edge that's on the binding. And that's achieved at the factory with this cardboard filler. This is an original. And here's ours that we've cut on our computer machine here, so we get it very accurate. It's hard, it's not impossible to cut by hand, but it is hard to get it exactly straight. If it isn't straight, you will see it. It will not, you'll not get that binding to look good. Likewise, this little frame, we also cut that on our computer. This frame is used inside the sun visor, right there. We've reproduced the glass in the 2.5mm mirror, rather. There's the original foams to look at as reference, that's the prototype of our frame that we're developing. It's not ready for production yet, but will be quite soon. You can see a couple of things on these original sun visors. This is a sun visor that's used on the hard top. You can see it's smaller in profile, and it's typically, I believe that all of them came this beige color on the hard tops. Let's see what else. So this is part of how we do this at Heritage. This is a proprietary. We figured this out ourselves. We computer cut. The computer cuts halfway through this closed cell foam that allows our guys then to carve out these pieces. That takes the frame, make a sandwich around the frame. The cardboard's inserted, and that's the starting point. There's more to it than that, but the end results are magnificent. Even if I say so myself. There you can see the back side, salvage side. You can see it stitched correctly at the top, and you can see the nice box profile for the binding, and looks even better with the mirror. We have the mirror placed and the correct thickness. The look and feel of these are exactly as original. Dust from the machine here, but let's take a close look at the binding here, and you can see just how beautifully it turns out. Again, only possible with skived leather. So there we have it, guys. That's our offerings for the 190 SL sun visors. So all we need from you is your original frame, we ask that you don't send the chrome components. We don't need those. We just need that frame, and we can reproduce these from that point. And soon we're going to be offering the frame so we can sell them outright. Okay, we're looking at our Heritage Upholstery offering for the 190 SL boot cover. Tricky little pattern to get right, and a tricky little thing to make. We took the patterns off a very good original, and we get some great results with that. There's a couple of things to note on the boot covers of 190s. Again, like the seats, there's some cinching that is required from this point to this point on the boot cover. That's within the leather here. That is a technique used to create this cup effect, slight cupping effect at the back, both sides. Another significant feature of our Heritage offering is again the skived leather. In this particular case, 0.5 millimeter. It's about a third thickness of standard leather. So full thickness leather for the main section, double reinforced at the front as the factory did, wool cloth lined as the factory did. But most companies and shops don't have the skived leather accessibility, and therefore you end up with a much wider profile here on the binding. So the original boot covers from the factory were a very small profile on the binding. You can see how perfectly stitched this one is, and there's a joint on the back here. and I believe there's one at the front on one of the others. Yeah, on the bottom there. So that's so this big piece across the front is in one piece, and then two pieces either side. And the binding, as you can see, has the raw edge on this side, and one of the real symptoms of full thickness leather is the fact that you cannot get the binding to be this small. It looks bulky. It adds there is more bulk at the front here. You have three thicknesses of leather and the wool cloth, so that's something that the factory had as well. But when you have just the single thickness of leather with the wool cloth, if you're using full thickness leather, you'll never get it to look like this. So again, the Skive leather is a significant addition. We also supply 9 of these little leather reinforcings that the factory used to be used with the snaps that we supply, the 14 silver cap snaps as original. There's 4 pieces per cap. All of this, of course, has to be installed on the car for the best fit, as it was done that way at the factory. These reinforcers are used to back the snaps so that they don't pull through. They used the back sections here and not at the front because it's double thickness at the front, so they didn't bother with the reinforcing there. But all in all, this is a good looking boot cover. Of course, when they're not fitted, they've always end up with this sort of loose fit, and as they're fitted to the car, snaps are installed, they get tension, gets pulled on this, it looks way better. So I think that's a pretty good overview of our 190 SL boot cover. Another nice detail of our heritage offerings for the 190 SL. This is natural jute underfelt. It is very difficult to find, impossible to find in North America. We import this from Europe, and it's even difficult to get there. It has the black bitumen coating and is natural jute. The jute product comes from Bangladesh, I believe, one of the only countries in the world that still produce natural jute this way, and it's needle punched, has the black bitumen coating. This is very close to what Mercedes use, not exactly the same, but these 2 patents here are supplied. These are the ones that go on from memory, they go on the prop shaft rise in the center of the car. Obviously on the carpet side, with the black side up. Now there are some other pieces I believe that are used, and we'd be grateful if anyone can help us with the patents for those. We'll add to this as we go, as we get these. If you have pads in your car as you're going along, and we haven't included it, get them to us and we'll replicate them and add it to our. Okay, we're looking at the 190 SL substrates in various forms: wood, aluminum, steel, and showing you some of the services that we offer in our Perfectionist panel kit. These services are included in the price that you see in the Perfectionist panel kit. Just like paint and body or any other kind of finishing, what you get underneath shows through. So you might put beautiful paint on it, but if it's wavy underneath, the paint job is spoiled. And upholstery is no exception. It has whatever you get underneath transfers through and can make the trim look terrible. I see that often at the shows where the care hasn't been taken to clean and prepare the substrates. The 190s have lots of particularities that make them quite difficult to prepare. It's not just the 190s, we see this in other Mercedes product as well. They have this incredibly strong black tar-like glue that they use, and man, is it a great glue, because here we are, this is in 1962, that's the same age as me, 54 years. I don't look that good after 54, let me tell you, but the glue is still standing up here. It's incredible stuff, but to use an old expression from the old country, it sticks like shit to a blanket. It's incredibly difficult to remove. So we can see some of the process here. The first step is that we have a special chemical actually quite illegal in most states, but we managed to get some. And it breaks down the glue, and you can see the guys have had this soak in and are starting to scrape off the black glue. The only bit that hasn't been done is, you can see them here. You see it used all over the place. Like I said, it's incredibly strong and effective glue, but it all has to come off. That's the first step, is the chemical treating, and then you can see this set is a little further along, and then it has to be all brushed down. As you can see, this has been with a wheel. And what we find is that there are some original holes for the snaps in this rear cowl, for instance, and then there's other holes that end up coming in that are, get damaged and elongated, and someone's hung a speaker at the back in 1972, and we have to go through and make sure that all of those things, all those burrs, are not showing through because they poke through the leather. So as you can see, there's a lot of preparation needed to do a good job, especially with these aluminum components. So that's the aluminum. The steel components, this one is aluminum, it's an early car, but the steel components also be treated in the same way. And we have to also take care of the wood. The hardwood itself mostly survives in good condition and is reusable. If it's not, like this one here, it's completely replaced and or repaired. That probably repair nicely. The ashtray lid that has the sky of leather on the top, it's not just a matter of pulling off the old leather. This has to be sanded down smooth so that nothing shows through. Same with the door cappings. This is typical of how they look when the leather first comes off. And you can see when this came in, I noted it and tagged it for the guys to take care of. That needs to be repaired. Once the wood is repaired, they all need to be sanded down very carefully. The hardware, the original hardware, we return to the customers. We don't do anything with it. For the for the very best results, this stuff should be plated and the correct screws used and so on. So we leave that restoration work to the restorers. We stick to the soft upholstery work. What else do we have here? This is an early 55. This is the long style armrest. You can see how the foam was in such bad condition that the guys have just completely removed it. I'll show you in a later video us rebuilding the foams. We have a way of making the foams look exactly and feel exactly as original, and if they're in good shape, it can be reused, and if not, we completely rebuild them. And that'll be the case here. Again, splitting wood that needs to be taken care of. So I think that's a pretty good overview of the kind of preparation that's needed. The seat frames themselves, for the show guys that want that correct color, I forget the color code now. It's in Bruce's book there. Kind of a taupey gray color. We ask that you prepare them to your standard and send them to us as you want. And they need to be addressed. We don't get involved with any of the chrome, so we ask that the chroming get done before things get sent to us. And like I said, like I say often, we like to stick to what we do best, and that's the soft upholstery work, and not get too involved with those other restoration aspects. We're drawn into this battle whether we like it or not. We have to take care of this. So. And that's how we do it. Okay, we're looking at our Gerber machine here, cutting the pads, in this particular case, for the early 190. Actually, they're the same. So these are the pads for the 190 seats and the 190 door panels. And we're going to see the machine cut these. Okay, 190 guys, I want to show you this. This is what it's all about. Here is an upper door capping, garnish rail, as sometimes called. Very difficult to get the leather around this corner. And in our opinion here at Heritage, impossible to get around that corner without wrinkles and other problems. This is very thin skive leather. It's about 1/3 of the thickness of the standard leather. You can actually see it there. I'm sure you can see the thickness difference. You try to wrap an irregular shape like this with full thickness leather and you'll always have problems. That's why Mercedes skived the leather. That's why we skive the leather. That's the big difference between our product and anybody else in the world. Nobody's doing this. This is the case in point. Look how paper thin this is compared to the thickness of full thickness leather. It's just, this is for the parcel tray. I'm sorry, the glove box bottom liner, and it gets wrapped in the leather. We've upgraded to plastic instead of the cardboard the factory used. Of course you don't see it, it gets glued down. It'll last much longer, and the front edge has to be skived for the glove box door to close. I showed that in the other video, but I thought I would just show it here while I'm demonstrating yet again demonstrating the necessity to skive. Okay, early 190 SL owners, we're now featuring the early seats and some of the differences with the early cars. This episode is to be viewed in conjunction with the episodes featuring the later car. Most things are the same, and I will detail some of the things that are different. The dash components are done in, I believe, 5 separate pieces as opposed to one. Well, the big piece on the earlier cars, then you have the knee roll, that's the same, but the upper portion of the dash is a completely different setup. As you guys will know, the binnacle section is covered separately. That's this rectangle here. Of course, like the earlier cars, we include the new panel for the glove box, and then these other pieces are all pre-cut and skived thin, ready for the fit-in of the early car dash. The early style door panel that you can see here, of course the pleat count is different. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as opposed to 7. The armrest is longer and there's some other differences there. We'll look at those in a few minutes. There you can see the early style seats and how beautifully they turned out. Rear cowl, the removable rear cowl section is the same early and late, and we featured all the covers for the rear stowage area in the earlier episodes. Upper door cappings, garnish rails, ashtray lid, and so on. That's all been covered before. We also covered the carpet in earlier episodes, and I believe that we've covered this natural jute felt that I have available and is included in the kit. We're adding to that as we go. So I think that's a pretty good overview here for the early cars. We'll look at some detail now on the door panels and the seats, which is essentially the most significant difference between early and late. Okay, we're taking a closer look at the early 190 door panels and seats. As you can see, it's in its classic Mercedes 190 red, very popular color. I forget the color code right now, but anyway, it's the standard red. You can see how beautifully our stitching has been done, dead straight with the nice pull, no puckers into the bolsters here. Another hallmark of our heritage work. Same with the door panels as in the earlier videos, everything rebuilt, new foams, everything cleaned back to bare metal, brand new factory finisher on this. Again, like the others, we computer cut with this machine. And the panel boards, we finish it nicely with the factory style original white tape, and you can see the results are beautiful. We also reproduce the original steel that goes into the front and rear section. That's how we get the bend in the panel. Bend is important. If it's not done that way, when you put it into the and a lot of shops we see try to do it without this, and you end up with this as a baggy billowing effect. So the factory did it for a reason, and we do exactly as they did. So we'll take a close look at the seats. You can see the beautiful stitching on the early seats. Of course, the backrest is affixed to the actual aluminum frame. We have the original style grommets, silver grommets that are put in, all perfectly stitched and detailed exactly as original. And again, some of the details here. We'll just separate that and look at the cushion itself. And again, a complete separate unit. All the burlap has been replaced and changed. All brand new padding. And as you can see, the early style seat there, that's fixed right into the frame itself. And the factory used matching vinyl on the inside, as not the waste leather. It's not seen, of course. Leather up to the point where it's seen. Actually, a little further than that, but the main section is vinyl. So all in all, I think the customer is going to be very pleased when he receives these. The early seats are a great looking seat, and I'm sure you guys have seen them at the shows. Our competitors work around the world, and rarely do they look this good. So we're very proud of this. Okay, we're looking at early 190 SL, and I'm not showing all the pieces from this interior because it's been well covered in previous videos featuring the red interior, but wanted to show this. The color is very attractive blue, dark blue, and of course the rear cowl we've covered before in the previous video. You can see how it's the skive leather, very important on these tabs. It's impossible to get this look with non-skive leather. Same goes for the dash. Look how beautifully it's wrapped, just like it's powder coated on. It's absolutely perfect, as you can see. Getting these crisp lines impossible without skive leather. And see the end, D-shaped, no wrinkles, no puckers. So the early wood cappings, of course, have all been restored and fixed. Then we have the door panel itself, which we have shown in previous episodes, and then of course the early style front seats, and they turned out beautifully in this blue. And so those look great. And then finally the early style headrest, early style hardtop headliner in a beautiful grey wool cloth, sewn, ready to install. And I'll show the sun visors that go with this, the early style hardtop sun visors, in a separate video. What separates Heritage from our competitors? Lots. This machine is one of them. I'm going to cut 113 door panels here. Some layers are cut, some are penciled on to be punched. There's some stock from another Jaguar alongside it, but there's the 113 door panels. I've stopped the machine part way. The operator has just paused it there. You just see the vacuum sucks it down. Should cut the second door. So now we get accuracy every time, exactly OE, with a little notch for the piping. And there we go. Now we can see panels perfectly cut, ready to go. 190 Kinder seats. This is typical of how we see them when they arrive to us. These covered in Naugahyde in 1972, no doubt. Pretty rough. All the components are here though. Brackets, hinges. That's about it. The horsehair padding survives quite well and can often be reused. We rework it, relaminate a little. 9mm Baltic birch ply always needs replacing. The hardwood here survives pretty well most of the time. So I'm just showing you a bit of a before photographs. We'll look at it later. This is actually from a 55, early 190. And yeah, we'll revisit this when they're done. And hopefully they'll look a little better than this. Okay, we're looking at the 190 Kinder seats. Here we've completely rebuilt these here at Heritage. The pads usually survive in good condition. Sometimes the wood in the frames have to be repaired or replaced. We CNC cut the new panel board for the bottom. That always needs replacing. You can see how nicely, beautifully the guys have stitched this exactly as original. Has the black nail tacks, black-headed tacks as it was at the factory. And there's the backrest. It's quite crudely trimmed, the design of it. One piece, and they just tucked the corners. So we copy exactly as it was done at Mercedes. And all the wood was repaired and reconditioned, and metalwork was painted up. We will soon be able to reproduce these completely. We have made digital patterns, and we're going to be 3D router cut in the wood components. We're just waiting to finalize the steel components. So if you do need Kinder seats, want to buy them outright, we will soon be offering them as a complete unit. As you guys are probably aware, this was a factory option. Not all cars have them, but kind of a cool looking, albeit slightly useless seat. But they do look kind of interesting in the back there. Anyway, there we go. I think it turned out pretty good. I'm sure the customer's going to be very happy. Featured here is a blue. This is actually not an original blue. It's a color choice of the customer's. Close to, but not quite. Anyway, there we go. I think that concludes the Kinder seat. Early 190 seats that we just finished here at Heritage. Don't they look beautiful? Just kidding. This is typical of how they come in. Looking pretty ratty, all original. You can see the pad, the cover is still on the bottom. And of course, all we need are the spring cases. You can see that the rest of this is original, and they use vinyl in the back here where they could get away with it, leather where you see. We would ask that customers do not send us the hardware on these seats. We don't do anything with them. We just return them. We don't do general restoration. So it's best if you handle that yourself. And all we need is the backrest aluminum piece and the spring casing itself, and of course this center section. We don't need the bottom base, so we're going to be removing them, sending them back to the customer. But as you can see, pretty original seat, looking pretty old at this point. So we'll follow this one through to conclusion and look forward to seeing it finished. Early 190 SL hardtop sun visors. As you can see, we've made our digital pattern here, our cardboard pattern, exact reproduction of the original. As you can see, they often distort and deteriorate over time. This one was covered with some unsightly vinyl, non-original. Of course, you can see the original stitch line here for the piece that goes on to protect them from getting soiled as you use them. and then we digitally recut the boards in this high quality, water resistant, modern automotive blackboard. The machine has penciled on the holes ready to be punched out, and then of course we use the original frames. These have to be sandblasted, glass beaded rather, and painted. Of course they're originally CAD plated, but I think paint internally is just fine for this, and we'll follow this through to completion.